Well, a Democrat lawmaker in Virginia is now backing down from a bill that would punish parents who do not affirm their children's gender identity or sexual orientation. Last week, State Representative Elizabeth Guzman told a local television station in the D.C. area that she wanted to expand the definition of child abuse. Her proposal would make it a crime for parents who do not affirm their children's gender identity or sexual orientation. Guzman introduced the same legislation back in 2020. Meantime, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's proposal takes effect this week. Transgender children in the Commonwealth will be required to use bathrooms and locker rooms assigned to their biological sex. And we go now to Amber Athey, Washington editor of the Spectator and host of the Unfit to Print podcast. Amber, great to see you again, as always. A lot to get to today, but first, let's talk about the bill that Representative Guzman was planning to reintroduce. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now, as it received a lot of criticism, as you know. That said, what was exactly in this proposed bill that caused so much controversy?
This proposed bill would have actually criminalized parents and potentially taken their children away from them if parents refuse to go along with their child's perceived gender identity, meaning if the child believed that they were a different gender than their biological sex and the parent chose not to aid them in a social or medical transition, that parent could both go to prison and lose custody of their child. This received backlash for very good reason. As a lot of activists point out, conservative activists point out, the real child abuse is putting your child through irreversible medical decisions, whether that means puberty blockers followed by hormones, or in extreme cases, actual surgery, sex change surgeries, that they're not able to consent to because they're obviously too young and don't understand the ramifications of putting their bodies through these types of procedures or these types of hormonal therapies. And in Virginia, it's really crazy that the Democrats didn't learn from the election of Glenn Youngkin that keeping parental rights at the forefront of politics is something that's really important to people in this state. So I'm not surprised that the backlash was so strong and so immediate. And I'm really glad to see that some of the Democrats are now backing down from this piece of legislation.
Yeah, Amber, talk to us now about Governor Youngkin's new policy, which all schools in Virginia are expected to be in compliance with by the end of the week. What's been the reaction so far, and has there been any pushback that is there?
There has been pushback from left-wing activist groups, but for the most part, Youngkin's policy is very popular. In a lot of ways, it's modeled after the Parental Rights and Education bill in Florida, which when you actually ask parents about the pieces of that bill as opposed to the fabricated name, don't say gay, they mostly support. And in Youngkin's policy, all it says is that parents need to be involved in major changes to their child's physical and mental state. So if a child goes to school and claims that they identify as a different gender than the one they were born as and want to go by a different name, they have to receive parental approval for that before the teachers start referring to that child as a different name or treating them as if they are a member of the opposite sex. It also says that children have to use the bathrooms that are assigned to their biological gender, and children are not allowed to play on sports teams of the opposite gender. So it's really a common sense policy.
Yeah, on another note, as you know, the midterms are fast approaching and a number of issues are on the ballot, including the economy and crime. That said, some prominent Democrats say that they are expecting a referendum on abortions. Your thoughts on that?
The polling just simply doesn't reflect that. The latest polls suggest that the top issues are inflation, followed by general economic concerns, immigration, and then crime. In some polls, abortion ranks fifth, but in others it is actually even lower than that. So the idea that that is going to be the bellwether deciding factor in the midterm elections, I think, is just a bit of fantasy from the Democratic Party.
And Amber, quickly, before I let you go, what else is on your radar? What else are you working on?
Well, as I mentioned, crime is one of the top issues for Americans headed into the midterms. I spoke on this issue recently at UC Berkeley and found that the students there were horrified to learn that some people actually believe people who commit crime should indeed go to jail and not be released back out on the streets. So unfortunately, the state of our higher education system in America is pretty poor.
Amber, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for weighing in. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.